The bronze, the science of why you're so awkward. We gotta find out, bro. I just ooh-wooed fucking Otto for this website 2 minutes ago. Let's find out why you guys are so awkward, scientifically.
You just clicked on this video. That means you're either curious or painfully uncomfortable to be around. If you happen to be the latter, do not fret. Science can alleviate your troubles, including, but not limited to, awkward silence, awkward commentary, and awkward positions.
Awkward.
3 completely different things that can all make you want to live in a cave and never see a human face again. In fact, a study done by the University of Michigan shows that physical pain and intense feelings of awkward hurt in the same way, meaning stubbing your toe and accidentally liking an Instagram photo from 2013 activate the same part of the brain.
Sure,
but that's
that
just
makes
an
sense.
awkward situation. Like say you go in for a handshake with your bro, and you and bro both use different methods. After an encounter like this, most people are going to openly display embarrassment. This is actually a good thing. It shows that you understand smooth social exchanges and that your failed handshake was not one of them. In fact, the worst thing you can do is be awkward without displaying that you feel awkward. Research has shown that if you have little to no reaction to an uncomfortable or awkward situation, you're seen as less trustworthy. But some people are just awkward as a person, as a whole. They're just a big ball of awkward. And there are 3 big traits that might make an awkward person.
That is like what Nathan Fielder does to make people uncomfortable. It is Nathan Fielder style, yep.
Awkward. Awkward trait number 1, hands. What to do with your 10 little sausages? Well, it can vary from culture to culture.
Is that why you sent this video? Is that why you sent this fucking video? Really? Because it has... Is this even relevant? Is this even a good video we're going to learn something from? Or did you just... It has a fucking sausage fingers in it. I feel like you 100% already knew that was in there and knew this would happen. And I feel like you broke the good faith agreement that we would learn something so that you could get chat to spam glizzy hands because you knew there was 10 sausage fingers in there.
But according to most experts, a good rule of thumb is if you're more open, you seem more comfortable. And if you're more closed, you seem uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable, the people around you feel uncomfortable, making you awkward to be around. So keep your body open. The best way to do this while speaking is to keep your palms up and move them accordingly to important points in conversation. But you're not going to be waving your hands around with your palms up when the other person is talking. That'd be weird and a little scary. What then? Again, good rule of thumb. Keep your body open. That means avoid putting your hands in your pockets or folding your arms. Now, it might seem like I've just eliminated every natural thing you could possibly do with your hands, but I didn't. For example, when you're sitting, you got the...
What about the, like the TED Talker? This is my favorite. The corporate presentation. You got your hands in a power stance in front of you like this, and you make... then you spread them apart to do broad gestures to emphasize your point and then go right back to it. The triangle of power. And that is why corporate profits are rising this year. Let's talk about next quarter.
The hands behind the head, the chin-hand combo, or your classic armrest position. For standing, the hands behind the back is always reliable. On the hips works in most situations. And just leaving them at your side while the other person is talking isn't necessarily bad. Awkward trait number 2, eye contact. What you'll hear from a lot of social skill coaches is 80% eye contact, 20% eye wandering. And that's decent advice, but it's not going to apply to every situation. For example,
that is exactly what you should do, but the important thing to do is count time, often out loud. So you do eye contact. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 1, 2. So that way they know that you're keeping time, okay? Don't listen to what they're saying at all. Just keep at least an internal monologue of the time, and then constantly, after 8 seconds, look away for 2 seconds exactly.
Example, a study at the University of Freiburg had participants do something socially inappropriate or awkward by reading off 50 instances of flaming on the internet directed at the experimenter. For half of the participants, the experimenter would hold direct eye contact, and the participants were asked to do the same. For the other half, the experimenter would look at their notes without ever looking up. By looking at heart rate, participant hesitation, and just asking, the experimenters concluded that the
That's insane. If they were truly from the internet, you had to look a researcher in the eye and say a slur or something. You had to like fucking That sounds very, very difficult.
Breaking eye contact significantly increased embarrassment and worsened mood. There are appropriate times and inappropriate times for eye contact. If someone's done something awkward, forcing eye contact is going to make the situation 10 times more awkward. But if you're just in casual conversation and you don't make eye contact, you'll be seen as bored or worse, nervous. Awkward trait number 3, personal bubbles. In this society, a violation of the personal bubble is of the utmost punishable offenses. 12 to 18 inches at least, and unless you're side by side. Because for some reason, pretty much everyone's bubble is more of an oval shape and extends in front more than it extends to the side. But if I can tell you what you ate for breakfast, there's a serious problem. In fact, by hooking people up with some wires and looking at the electrical characteristics of their skin, we can observe the closer someone you don't know very well stands, the more objectively uncomfortable your nervous system gets. In other words, the bubble needs to be respected. So we have hands, eyes, and space. But these 3 things are really just the most common examples of breaking social expectations. So is there any consistent way to score awkwardness? According to this guy, who has a PhD in awkward and has wrote a book on it, there kind of is. He claims that awkward can be measured using the Autism Spectrum Inventory. That might sound strange, but hear me out. 26 points is required for a diagnosis. And while you might expect your average Joe to score 0, the average score is actually around 16. And Dr. Toshiro claims that anything in between these 2 numbers is what we perceive as awkward. He claims this because awkwardness is really just social inconsistency. I like that theory, and while it may very well be accurate, some people just get really nervous in social situations. And that nervousness can cause awkwardness. Now we're talking about social anxiety. And according to the National Library of Medicine, the most effective treatment for social anxiety is exposure. That's right, you big ball of awkward. The best way—
We talked about this yesterday. I truly believe this. I believe it's getting reps in, dude. Reps. I feel like we have this snowball where you don't get practice and then you get worse and then you get more nervous about it, which makes you more awkward, which makes you get less practice in, which makes you get worse. It's a reverse snowball. No, I'll melt alive. There's gotta be reps, dude. I don't want to go outside. I want to stay in and watch Atrioc on twitch.tv. Well, that obviously works as well, okay? Thanks, camaraderie. Obviously, that works as well.
Way to become less scared of social interaction and subsequently less awkward.
You can tell your parents or your therapist that you are making serious efforts. If you watch not just the stream, but the full VOD, really, and the video afterwards. Full watch time, please.
Awkward is by willingly going out and being scared and awkward. A tip I would have for you, my socially anxious friend, is to focus less on yourself, what you're going to say, or anything about you, and try and fully direct your attention onto the other person and be genuinely as interested as possible in what they have to say. When you have a question, ask. When you want them to expand on something, ask. Want to know more about their dog named Julius? Ask. Eventually, through trial and error, things will start to come naturally, and you will emerge from your awkward cocoon into a social butterfly. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Your total for the exit fee is going to come out to 1 subscribe, and I'm American, so I'm going to flip this tablet around, and you're going to tip me. And if you don't, it's going to be really awkward.
It is going to be awkward. Fantastic little video there. I think it rings true to me. We learned something. Perhaps helpful. How to quickly ruin the rest of your life. I don't think chat needs to learn this, but
here's another quick tutorial on how to quickly ruin your life. Step 1, eliminate your goals.
Nice.
Don't orient yourself towards a North Star. Don't develop a vision for what your life could be like. Doing this will make it impossible to progress in life, because without a goal, how do you know you're progressing? Eliminate any desire to get yourself out of a suboptimal situation. Subscribe to the idea that this is just the way life—
Subscribe is what he said. Subscribe. If you're listening, you should subscribe. And that way you'll get past these ads that are running right now. That will—
Life is. This is all I can be. It's not hopelessness. It's self-acceptance. Use loving yourself as an excuse to—
Oh shit, beef jerky rules. Beef jerky rules. Thank you for the 10 gifted. I appreciate that and your previous support. However, as much as I love beef jerky, I will not be eating 2 3-pound pags of it again, as I was seriously ill. I was seriously ill. You ate 6 pounds of jerky? That's correct. That was all I ate was jerky. 6 pounds of it. And I felt terrible.
You spin your wheels and mentally deteriorate. Confuse self-love with self-neglect. Wander aimlessly through life, not really knowing why you're here. Step 2, stay inside. Don't expose yourself to the light. Don't be a person in the world. Stay hidden. Operate in the shadows. Never subject yourself to the judgment.
You know, it's funny is you could take all of this dialogue, change the title to How to Be a Sigma, and add different music, like add this. And then we could all think it's cool. We could all think this is cool as hell.
Of others. Close yourself off from new information and new perspectives. Let algorithms create deep grooves of repeated behavior and topics, catering only to your already limited interests, until you're viewing the same things and thinking the same thoughts for the rest of your life. Allow your mind to shrink, and with it, your world.
That sounds awesome.
Avoid risk. If something's risky, don't do it. You don't want to end up like that one guy who did that thing and lost everything. What was his name again? Assume that by avoiding risk, you get to avoid pain. Believe that the people who made it big in life made obvious, beneficial decisions with little perceivable downsides. And just wait for that crystal clear opportunity to come around for you. Never ask for a raise, tell a risky joke, or stand up for what you think is right. Never apply for a job unless you know for sure you're going to get it. Never ask somebody out unless you know for certain that they're interested. Don't put your hand up because your question might be stupid. Yeah. Always wait for the obvious.
Chatters can learn from that.
Because it'll present itself eventually, right? Step 4, overthink. Let every decision you make, no matter how minute, require a deep, brooding think. Assume that your own logic is foolproof. Get lost in the cobwebs of your own mind, divorced from external scrutiny. Develop your own personal theories about everything, and never bounce these ideas off other people. Bounce them off yourself. Step 5, consume.
Why wouldn't you do that? Okay, obviously you're the smartest. I'm talking to you specifically. And you're going to know whether or not it's good.
Always consume more than you produce. Keep your brain entertained at all times. Not by
Okay, one thing I'll say, obviously they're making a point. They're doing the classic, the win is a fail, the fail is a win. Flip it around. I don't think that part's crazy. I think it would be normal. I think Quentin Tarantino consumes more movies than he produces. You know what I'm saying? I think anything you're interested in, you're going to consume 50 times more than you make. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I think generalized consumption, where you have big screen, medium screen, little screen, and you are just constantly stopping your mind from being bored at any time, that's bad. But I don't think constant production is even right, let alone good.
By your own creative endeavors, obviously, but by other people making.
Yeah, exactly. I think being a writer who has written more books than he's read is actually a terrible writer. I think you gotta fucking
fill your mind not with great works of art or education, but with content. Willingly subject yourself to the influence of those who encourage further consumption. Constantly stay up to date with reviews, rumors, comparisons. Motivate yourself not by fostering virtue,
like me,
but by accumulating objects. Pay your dues regularly to remain in this cycle. And if consumption becomes compulsive, even better. Now you don't have to think about it.
Bro, I could use some nuggies right now.
Avoid criticism. Don't surround yourself with people who keep you in check. Challenge your viewpoints. Offer differing perspectives. Spend time only with those who think how you think. Act how you act. Constantly judge those who live differently. Be quick to shut down any discussion of matters you're convicted on, especially ones.
I feel like by the end of this video, people are going to be like at the beginning, it's like motivating. And by the end, it's like, this is too much effort. So I'm going to follow these instructions. You know what I'm saying? It's like the
Your
beginning
emotional
is like, all right, you know what?
Let
I
your
should.
ego blind you from any real growth. Go through life believing that you, amazingly, have the correct viewpoint on things.
Look at this Chad.
Politics, religion, relationships. Never learn what it feels like to have your belief system challenged.
He's drinking a beer. He's having a good
because
time.
That's uncomfortable. Step 7. Be secretive. Never expose your darker side to anyone for any reason. Don't let anybody know about the bad things you've done or the things you struggle with. Let your addictions
It's more on the
blossom in
struggle
secret,
side, I think.
where they
Not
continue
if you
to
murdered
gain
somebody.
power. Develop a tendency to hold your thoughts, actions, and emotions close to your chest. Be proactive in maintaining a facade of perfection. Never let anyone suspect that you could have flaws or struggle.
Hey, who is this person? Because this is not a real person. There's plenty of people who are like, you know, anxious and afraid and a little lonely, and they could use a chance to get out a little more. I don't know about the person who's also putting up a facade of perfect. This is more of an American Psycho type. Yeah, Agent 47 type than...
Or any kind of normal human weakness. Just focus on the act. The show must go on. Let what you do in the shadows stay there, rotting you from the inside. Step 8. Avoid conflict. If something bothers you, don't mention
You
it.
already did this one. The last part is fucking 5 minutes on Be Pessimistic. I get it, bro. I get it. Understood. I think that guy wanted us to start Hot Ones. I think the takeaway was that you should probably fucking give people hot wings as a show. And then you'll be happy. I'm like, not everybody can do that. Let's see. Oh, you guys can't see. What else can we learn from? Historical facts that mess with your sense of time from casual history. This could be interesting.
When we try to put historical events into perspective, we often simplistically divide things into old days and modern times because our brains can often struggle with the perception of time. I compiled a series of...
This is a Salmonella ripoff, but he also uploads once in a blue moon, so the market has filled the gap.
Interesting facts on historical events that surprisingly took place at more or less the same time, turning them into real and pretty fascinating coincidences, and will make you think twice about how you perceive the past. Number 1. The same tortoise belonged to both Charles Darwin and Steve Irwin.
That's
Harriet
insane.
the tortoise was reportedly collected by Charles Darwin during his 1835 visit to the Galapagos Islands as part of his round-the-world survey expedition. Then she was transported to England and finally
beard
brought to
drawing
her
is
final home,
beautiful.
Australia, by a retiring captain of the Beagle, the ship Darwin used for his expedition. And as we all know, tortoises can live quite a long time. And by a hilarious turn of events, Harriet turned up in Steve Irwin's zoo. That's right, the pet tortoise of Charles Darwin was adopted
R.I.P.
by the legendary crocodile hunter. However, some doubt was cast on this story by the fact that Darwin had never visited the island that Harriet originally came from. Anyhow, she had an estimated age of 175 by the time she finally died at Steve Irwin's zoo. Her life was an absolute win since Harriet got to meet 2 historical legends.
Died so
Number
young.
2. Today's oldest living tree was already 1,000 years old when the last woolly mammoth died. The world's oldest tree is a Great Basin bristlecone pine located in White Mountains, California, and is dated at around 5,000 years old.
Okay.
To put that into perspective, isolated populations of woolly mammoths on Wrangel Island didn't finally go extinct.
I didn't know they had
until
human faces.
4,000 years ago, with the small island in the Arctic Ocean serving as a sanctuary for the great beasts after they were forced from the mainland by humans.
I did see it. Yeah, I did see a cool mammoth exhibit at there's a tar pits, La Brea Tar Pits Museum in LA. I went with Ari, and they talked about how herds of mammoths would cross these ice floes onto islands. Then the ice melted and they were stuck on the island. And so there wasn't enough food on the island to stay big. So over the next whatever amount of time, they became really small pygmy mammoths that are more like elephants, which was interesting. I was there.
Climate change. So you don't have to go back to the Ice Age to meet some mammoth friends. Number 3, woolly mammoths and the Egyptians. I think this fact is more popular nowadays, but I still want to include it since it's a true classic. As I established earlier, woolly mammoths went extinct about 4,000 years ago when human societies were already around. The oldest of the Great Pyramids in Egypt, the Pyramid of Djoser, was constructed about 1,000 years before they went extinct, meaning that while man was busy building some of the most incredible structures ever made, woolly mammoths were still chilling on some islands.
I did not know that.
Number 4, Mahatma Gandhi and Jack the Ripper. Gandhi is so bound up with the titanic events of the 20th century that it might be peculiar to imagine him as a dapper gentleman of Victorian society. But that's exactly what he became while studying law.
Oh, I thought he was going to say Mahatma Gandhi was Jack the Ripper.
In London.
I was like, I seriously doubt that.
Right in the midst of the Jack the Ripper killing.
No, you can know. No, not could be, not twist, not you could never know. I think we can confidently say that Gandhi did not murder people secretly, murder prostitutes in London.
The Ripper killings. But it's funny to think about the fact that Gandhi could have become a suspect in the most famous murder case. Number 5, Nintendo and Jack the Ripper. Even though Jack the Ripper and Nintendo were around about the same time, he never got the chance to play classic.
Now this I could believe. I do believe John Nintendo, CEO of Nintendo to this day, probably was Jack the Ripper. I do think he probably killed people, and it's probably because they were drawing fan art of Mario or something.
Like Zelda and Mario. They originally made playing cards called Hanafuda when the company was founded way back in 1889. At the same time, the infamous Jack the Ripper was creating havoc on the streets of London. His murder spree happened only about a year before Nintendo came into existence. Number 6, Star Wars came out the same year as the last guillotine execution in France. When thinking about guillotine execution,
that just reflects poorly on France. That's not like a crazy historical fact about how old Star Wars is, because Star Wars came out in the 70s, bro. That's just, it is guillotine, though. He said guillotine.
Our minds wander to historic figures like Napoleon, but you didn't have to be that old to get your head chopped off. Star Wars premiered in the United States on May 20th, 1977. At the same time this futuristic sci-fi was wowing audiences around the world, Hamida, the pimp killer, Jandubi, was beheaded for the torture and murder of a young woman. This was the last use of the...
Oh, I thought he killed pimps. He was a pimp who was also a killer. Don't call him the pimp killer. Because that could also be like early 2000 slang where he's like a pimp. Like pimp as a positive killer. Yeah, he's the killer pimp.
The guillotine in France. Nobody else has been executed using any means since. Considering the timeline, even your own grandpa could have attended this last execution. And maybe he talked with some strangers about the new cool Star Wars movie while watching the execution. Number 7. Prisoners arrived at Auschwitz just days after McDonald's was founded. While McDonald's is traditionally associated with the good times and affluence of 1950s America, the very first restaurant was opened much earlier, on May 15, 1940. At the same time, one of the most gruesome events in human history began in Europe. Just 5 days after McDonald's grand opening, the first prisoners arrived at the Auschwitz concentration camp in what is now
Doesn't seem that
Poland.
crazy to me, though. That seems very reasonable.
University existed for hundreds of years before the Aztec Empire was founded. The Aztec Empire began as an alliance of 3 city-states. These 3 city-states ruled the area in and around the Valley of Mexico from 1428. This came to an end when the combined forces of the Spanish conquistadors and their native allies under Hernán Cortés defeated them in 1521.
I learned that from Age of Empires. I learned that is that everyone thinks Cortez conquered the Aztecs, but like the majority of the fighting was done by other indigenous people who hated the Aztecs. That and fucking disease. Like Cortez kind of riled them up, and then they all killed the Aztecs.
Aztec culture had rich and complex mythological and religious traditions, as well as achieving remarkable architectural and artistic accomplishments. Meanwhile, in England, Oxford University was already well established. It has no known date of foundation, but there is evidence of teaching as far back as 1096, making it the oldest university in the English-speaking world and the world's second oldest university in continuous operation.
I did study there.
It grew rapidly from 1167,
but I got
when
so
Henry
wasted
II
every day.
banned English students from attending the University of Paris. So part of why Oxford is so famous today is because Henry pulled a clever marketing move. Number 9. Ecstasy was invented the same year the Titanic sank. The unsinkable Titanic sank in 1912, going down in the North Atlantic Ocean 4 days into the ship's maiden voyage from Southampton.
Is it possible that the captain of the Titanic was rolling on E? Is it possible they were having a crazy party and that's why?
To New York City. In the same year, pharmaceutical giant Merck was
It's
interested
well
in
established.
developing substances that stop abnormal bleeding. One of their chemists, Anton Kolisch, synthesized MDMA to avoid a patent by German rival Bayer. It wasn't until 1975 that psychoactive effects of the drug began to be taken seriously, and recreational use spread thereafter through personal networks of psychotherapists, psychiatrists, users of psychedelics, and yuppies. So, yes, everyone who died on the Titanic never got the chance to taste this drug. By the
Truly
way,
sad.
ecstasy raised one's body temperature, so if it had been invented earlier,
stupid.
it might explain why the captain was so desperate to ram an iceberg. Number 10. Microsoft was founded while Spain was still a fascist dictatorship. A highly controversial figure within Spain, Franco is seen as a divisive leader. Supporters credit his strong anti-communist and nationalist views, economic policies, preservation of traditional Spanish practices,
Paella!
and support of the monarchy of Spain as positive influences over the nation. Critics disparage him as an autocratic dictator who violently suppressed opposition and dissent, banned culture seen as non-Spanish, and provided much support to the Axis powers
Well,
during
that's
World
tough.
War II. Franco ruled Spain as a fascist state up until his death
That
in 1975.
is one of those
This
photos
was
you
the
don't
same
wanna
year
have.
that Microsoft was founded by Paul Allen and Bill Gates, and the beginning of a new era in computer technology. Number 11. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows was published the same year the first iPhone was released.
That's a dumb... that doesn't make me think history. It doesn't fuck with my sense of time. That's so normal. I feel like this guy picked random years in Wikipedia and then picked 2 things on them. That's fully slop, bro. Is that crazy to Zoomers? How is that crazy to... I guess they think that iPhone is farther back?
The 7th and last book in the Harry Potter series was released in 2007, ending the series that began in 1997 with the publication of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. That same year, something came along that has probably done more to kill children's interest in reading more than anything else: the first iPhone model. Considering that the first iPhone seems like a vintage phone now, it's impressive how fast time goes by. But that is it for today.
Yeah, man, I don't get the Harry Potter comparison. I do think it is crazy to think how smartphones have so quickly become an unremovable part of our lives. Not even, I mean, now we're already past the point, but like you think you go back to like 20, even like 13, 14, 15, they'd only been out for, 7 years. And it was like, you can't even imagine the world without them. It was so quick. That was, it's crazy how that went from not existing, nobody having one, to the world having one and everything being built around them so quick. Smartphones are like, even the internet, which is like in my lifetime, was relatively slow.